From IGN's offices in San Francisco, welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat for the week of December 5th, 2014. I am your host, Jose Otero, and you are listening to IGN's Nintendo podcast. Joining me this week are regular Brian Altano.
I blew a kiss at the camera.
That only comes out in theater of the mind.
Hey, if you can't hear it, then watch the video.
Okay.
Catch my kiss.
Martin Sleva.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
All right. And special guest, Callie Plaguey.
Woo!
All
What's
right.
up?
Hi.
So, Callie, how will people know, sort of tell folks what you do?
I am a freelance reviewer, so I just did Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, obviously, and I did The Sims 4, I did Tales of Symphonia, I've done some anime things that nobody cares about.
Cool.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
what I do.
And what are your genres of expertise?
Probably RPG, simulation, and like adventure-y stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What were the anime things no one cares about? Was it a Naruto Shippuden game?
Naruto? Yeah, no, I did 2 One Piece games and 2...
Did you want to?
Okay.
Okay. Just making sure.
There's a paycheck at the end of the tunnel.
It wasn't terrible. And then I did Hyperdimension Neptunia, which is like anime boobs, the game. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Far better title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you
more accurate.
a better idea of what the game's about. So,
Cool. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. And I guess we'll lead off discussion right there. Let's start with talking about Pokemon. So Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are pretty much available in the major territories, right? Europe just got it a week ago. Japan and the U.S. got it at the same time. And, Callie and I are playing it. I know you two haven't or have experience with Pokemon, so I still think this can be an awesome discussion sort of going around. But, let's just start with, what we like about the game so far. How about we begin there?
Oh, okay. Well, before we started this, we were talking about DexNav, which is like super cool.
Yes, it is the coolest thing.
It's basically the feature is like you get to see which Pokemon is in the grass before you catch it, but it doesn't happen all the time. It's hard to explain, but like you'll be walking in the grass and you'll see like a tail or like some ears, and it'll be like, oh, this Pokemon's level 19 and it has this ability, and then you get to catch it. And sometimes they have rare abilities or rare moves. And I just found that really exciting.
Yeah, no, it is because the random battle nature of Pokemon make it a grind, right?
Yeah.
Like the minute you start the adventure, you're like, man, I got to wander through that grass. I'm going to get in a fight. I don't want to get in a fight, but I need to get in a fight because I have to level up these Pokemon to take a gym leader, right?
And it's always such a weird, it changes throughout the game. Because at the beginning of the game, it's just like everything you run into, you're just like, I don't have that one. Like, I don't have a Metapod. I don't have a Pidgeotto. You can see when I played Pokemon. I think it's pretty clear when I play Pokemon. But then, by the end of the game, if you're grinding through specific areas, like, nope, I have that one, nope, I have that one, nope, I have that one. So the idea of knowing what is ahead of you or knowing what you're about to get into is really interesting for me.
Well, and especially when you're trying to sort of breed for the competitive purpose.
Yeah, it's really good for competitive play because you can see like egg moves, which you could pass down to Pokemon you're breeding, or like you can see abilities, which is really important for competitive play.
Watching Brian very closely as we talk about this because his eyes are glazing over a little bit.
Well, I'm like, egg moves.
You're breeding.
How does that? What is an egg move?
Yeah, so basically on the competitive level, a lot of it boils down to sort of breeding and sort of before it was through a lot more luck than it was in X and Y, and especially in the current form. But you basically had to breed Pokemon to build one that had enough really great stats in certain areas you wanted, and then you develop that with the idea of then fleshing out a move set. So this is, a very tanky style of like Pokemon, like one that can take a lot of hits, but it's going to last and survive if you play a certain style, like that kind of thing.
It's like getting a golden chocobo in Final Fantasy VII.
A little
Sure.
bit, but imagine like using it to then fight, right?
Sure.
And having a better golden chocobo than someone else because you went about it a certain way.
Gotcha.
That's
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
how the competitive level Pokemon.
That's cool.
plays
So
out.
the whole thing about DexNav that's really cool is it makes it a little more accessible for people who might be intimidated by that because you have access to a greater range of moves. Like, for example, at the very beginning of the game, you get a Poochyena, which is like one of the most basic Pokemon you get at the beginning of this game, and it has like a special move that you can't normally get, and it's really helpful. Like, I picked Mudkip, and I got a Poochyena with Fire Fang, and that's really important because it's a Fire-type move, and there's like no Fire-type Pokemon in this game.
Oh, snap.
So...
We're helping him because Brian played Pokemon X and Y for what, like an hour?
Why are you gonna bring this
2
up?
hours? I need to bring it up for context.
All
because
my Pokemon died.
a lot of people liked your segment of trying to learn to play the Pokemon games and ultimately failing really badly at it.
Did you not play it in the 90s?
No.
Like, did you not play Pokemon like Red or Blue?
No, I missed
wow.
out. I don't know. It was weird because it was like the one Nintendo franchise that never really like grabbed me.
It was a phenomenon. You couldn't turn on the television without running into something about Pokemon in the late
Right,
90s.
Jose. There's a lot of things that happen on TV and happen all over, but that doesn't mean like
You don't listen to One Direction. It's a phenomenon.
you were in front row at that Britney Spears concert. She's got the #1 selling album. That doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay.
So I don't know. I respect Pokemon. I appreciate it. I know I see what it's trying to do, and I respect that.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily for me. I'd rather play Zelda because Zelda makes sense.
You're not like a JRPG guy.
Not really.
Yeah.
But all this sounds wonderful. Continue.
Well, no. Well, DexNav, I think, is something that series ultimately really needed because random battle was getting really tiring, and especially from the idea of, again, what's really great about this franchise as a whole is, its scale, right? Like, there's the competitive scene and people who are really into that stuff, and DexNav appeals to them.
Sure.
But at the same time, the series is also for a wide audience, right? People who just play them to finish the campaign and beat the gym leaders and then put it down. Like, so I feel like DexNav is kind of this cool in-between for both sides of that coin a little bit. And at least it makes me want to play and stop and capture them because DexNav, at least from what I can tell, it levels. And the higher levels that thing gets, the better Pokemon you catch.
Yeah,
Sure.
like the more you encounter a certain Pokemon, the better its like detection skills are.
Sure.
So for example, you get a lot of Zigzagoons, which is whatever, but like once
So tired
I've
of
seen,
those.
I know, yeah, I'm sure you are. I've seen so many Zigzagoons, and it's like level 50 on my DexNav, so I get like all the details about Zigzagoon
Sure.
that I don't really need, but like it applies to other Pokemon too.
It's
so,
like too much information.
yeah, it's like
Zigzagoon.
wow, Zigzagoon.
I've heard enough of your
Put it
your
away.
plight.
It's like
Yeah.
it's Zigzagoon's darkest secrets. Like, it once ran over a guy and,
Yeah.
and it didn't stop. It just kept
Zigzagoon
going.
murdered somebody.
Oh man, Zigzagoon.
How could
That's so
you?
great.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay, so
any other things to praise? Sorry, before...
Oh, I just have like a question. So this is a remake of Ruby and Sapphire, which were
right.
from like early 2000s, right?
yeah,
2003,
10 years,
I believe.
Okay.
roughly?
Yeah.
Over 10
So
years.
does this,
10 years.
like, what does that mean? Like, does it have all of the Pokemon from like Black and White and X and Y, like Pokemon that came afterwards, or does it maintain the same corral of Pokemon from 2003 with
That's
updated
an
graphics?
Interesting question. I'll let you start and then I'll join in.
Yeah, so when you start out, it's all the same Pokemon as Hoenn.
Okay.
It's like, which is for people who don't know, is the region of Ruby and Sapphire. And then once you beat the game, you unlock the National Pokedex, which they've been doing that for a while now.
I've been doing that for a while, but this is the first game where Pokemon Bank exists right at
Sure.
the start of the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you can import stuff that you caught in X and Y and in Black and White 2, whatever. But your Pokedex, and this is a silly thing that they seem to cling to, but for whatever reason they do it, won't recognize, won't identify them and won't give you information on them until you beat the game and get the National Dex.
Yeah, so you can use them, but
Okay.
it doesn't register. I don't know. I'm not sure why they do that. I think they just want to distinguish between did you catch all the Pokemon in this region versus all the
Sure.
Pokemon ever.
Sure.
But with Pokebank, this thing exists, right? And it's a way to transfer them and make it it sort of, in a lot of ways, makes it a lot easier than it's ever been to transfer your Pokemon from game to game. It's always been, you can do it, but then you have to catch it again, or you have to you have to jump through hoops, basically,
Yeah.
to use stuff that you've caught and leveled to 100.
Yeah.
Which
Like
seems a
5
bit
times
ridiculous.
over,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and game over game, that started to get a little boring. Now, that said, you have to pay for Pokemon Bank, though. It's like $5 a year, which is not a lot.
Wait,
It's
real
basically- yeah.
bucks or
Real
Pokebucks?
bucks.
Okay.
Real bucks.
Not Pokebucks.
Pokebucks would be like 5,000 Poke
Yeah,
dollars.
probably. 5 million.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Obama bailed out the Pokebank?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that was a dark day in my time.
We're in a Poke recession right now.
They have universal health care.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but yeah. So those are sort of the structure, and that's the way they've kind of tackled remakes in the past. They did it with Hard Gold and Soul Silver. Sorry, I know.
I thought the healthcare joke was really good. So
Thank you,
really
thank
good.
you.
I wanted to give that its due laughter.
Thank you,
That
thank
was
you.
They
Excellent.
were laughing at home. You don't have an
I'm
audience,
allowed to
you don't
have
feel
some of this for myself,
bad. Yeah,
okay?
in your head.
In your head. No enthusiasm. No
Yeah.
enthusiasm. I'm kidding.
Fun police over here.
Yeah, sometimes. But that said, is there anything else left to praise before we start talking about some of the negatives of this game? Because I feel like we've kind of gone on at
Yeah,
least.
gone on about DexNav. That's not the
Okay.
only. That's like the one big addition they put in. I still love Wonder Trade. I don't know why I love Wonder Trade so much. But that kind of goes along with the National Pokedex versus the regional because if you get a Pokemon on Wonder Trade, you can use it right away, which is cool.
Yeah. And you guys know what Wonder Trading is? Should we tell you?
No,
It's
I
like-
assume
it's like-
it sounds like a
It's
dollar
It's
store.
like
I was gonna say it sounds like a vegan market.
I love that this discussion came
I
together
love this.
now. Yeah.
It's like gambling for Pokemon fans. Like you send a Pokemon out into the void, and then you get one back, and it could be
That
anything.
someone else sent out into the void. And they started this
Oh.
in X and Y.
Is that
Why
Poke-
would
is it-
anyone send out a good one though?
No, I get so much
people
good
do.
stuff because people,
Yeah.
like we were talking about, people breed for competitive play. So when they get one that's not exactly what they wanted, they
Oh.
send it out.
You know how when people gamble with their wife's wedding ring or something like that? Sometimes you hit
and then
Pokey Rock Bottom and you just gotta roll them out there.
Rock bottom. You get the
I'm
diamonds.
sending the house into the void and the mortgage. I hope I get a Maserati back. Gambling's a serious addiction in this world, so you know,
help.
look up the information if you need it.
There you go.
Consult a Poke therapist.
Okay, yeah.
But it is a fun concept in that you don't know what you're getting. It's sort of the element of surprise, right? You can send something that's garbage out, which please don't do that, by the
Yeah,
way. You shouldn't flood
do
Wonder
not
Trade
flood
with,
Wonder Trade
yeah,
with
things you don't like.
Zigzagoons, please.
Like,
You got a
know-
lot of hatred
Yeah,
for this
you-
dude.
I hate
You get
Zigzagoon.
a username.
Oh, so like someone
someone
would
else.
know if they got my Pokemon?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a silly experiment last year as a video for Pokemon X and Y where we called one IGN's Doof. And we sent it out to the wild. We did
What
a
was the
video
word you just
where
said?
we
The
sent-
Bidoof?
Bidoof is a type
Like
of Pokemon.
Bidoof.
Bidoof?
Yeah, that's a word. That's a Pokemon.
Bidoof.
What do you think a Bidoof looks like?
It looks like toilet paper they sell at the vegan store.
Yeah.
But we named it that, and we said, hey, if you find this, let us know. Like, and we took a photo of like certain stats of it, so we'd know if someone was lying or not.
Anybody find it?
No.
You don't get pinged like.
Oh, really?
No, it just goes out. It can go to a random stranger.
No, I didn't know if like you would get pinged like, hey, your Bidoof has a new owner.
No, it
No.
just trades that information in the moment.
Okay.
So, for example, if you randomly traded with me and I randomly traded, it would just have our usernames
Okay.
on there, and that's it.
That's cool.
I would never see you again.
Wow.
I got dark.
Yeah, it's pretty
One of us can't work here anymore.
Pretty much.
empty.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then let's talk a little bit about, with your review, some of the negatives specifically, right? Because the challenge with remakes is it's an opportunity to make up for things that were a problem the first time around. And then
Exactly.
the big question becomes, as a developer, how do you tackle that? And do you even do that, right?
Right.
So let's talk about how they chose to enter this.
So one of my biggest problems is it's just really imbalanced in a lot of ways. Like the pacing is kind of off for me. I start off the game. I'm currently I'm like 40 hours into my replay because I'm a slow Pokemon player. So the beginning of the game up until like the third badge takes forever for me because I feel like I have to grind a lot in order to prepare myself, and then it's kind of a cakewalk for the rest of the game. And I found those the pacing issues
Yeah.
consistent across both of my plays of this game so far.
Interesting.
Yeah, and just I counted the types of Pokemon there are available in Hoenn. There are 23 water type evolution lines and 5 fire type evolution lines, and I was like, that's redonkulous. Like, that's terrible. It's terrible.
Redonkulous is my favorite Pokemon.
And also the sort of the how do we explain HM to these folks?
Wait, I know what an HM is
You
like
do.
an
I'm
active
thinking of
ability
Brian.
you can use in
It's
the
a clothing
environment,
store.
correct?
Yeah, it's a what?
A clothing store, H&M.
H&M.
Yeah, so if HM is anything like what it was back in 1998,
Okay.
certain Pokemon have abilities that, say, a Pokemon has an attack called Cut. You can also use that ability in the overworld. Like you get to Bramble that you can't pass unless you currently have a Pokemon with the ability.
Oh, okay, I got it.
So there's a handful of active abilities that can leave the confines of battle and actually go
Well done.
into the video.
Yeah,
Sure.
that was good. That was
Yeah.
a really good assessment of
1998,
HMs.
Marty.
So apparently that hasn't changed at all.
Well, because this is a remake. So the original gen had, I think, 5 or 6 HMs, and then the original Hoenn games had 8 HMs.
Okay.
H&M on every block.
Yeah, so many H&Ms.
Like in Midtown.
No Forever 21s. So,
Nice word. Very nice word.
Not even a gap.
Wow. So that means like if you want to be able to navigate the world without running back to a Pokemon Center and getting a new Pokemon, you have to have 8 move slots filled with these HMs.
Yeah.
By the end of the game.
Or an HM slave, which is basically a waste of it.
That's what people on the interwebs.
That's not a real term, right?
People on the net call it that.
It's basically
the
a Pokemon
youngsters.
that you just treat it, have it learn 4 HM moves that it can learn, so that you can get through certain sections.
And the reason
That's
I hate
a waste of a party
Zigzagoon,
slot.
I
It
hate
is.
Zigzagoon because Zigzagoon's the perfect HM slave. And
So
so
you
I always
gotta
have
bring
to
him with
have
you.
one. I always have to have a Zigzagoon.
Got to
I
hear about
freaking
them
hate
all
it.
the time now.
My
Yeah.
eyes went so wide when I said that, by the way.
That's a weird
HM
word to just throw
slave,
around.
just
You be
like,
careful
oh.
with that word.
Call it. Yeah, no.
Like a buddy, maybe? Like a
HM buddy.
An H&M buddy.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the easy way to get around that is once you learn an HM is that it's just inherent to your player character. Like that character has. And I get the idea of like, well, you have this Pokemon with you that you, in the fiction, you would call out and be like, I need to traverse to this island. I need a Pokemon who can swim.
Well,
like that makes sense, but it also just seems like by forcing you to like have sort of be weighed down by these abilities across your team, you're limiting the customization options.
One way
definitely.
to fix that could be like if a certain type of grass move automatically had cut as a byproduct, like something like that. Because at least then you can still weave some of it into the strategy. I mean, I do admit it will at least it does tie you down a little bit or limit some choices. But at the end of the day, it does make it so that you're not just carrying around this one move to do one thing.
Yeah.
Like if a range of moves can cut or a range of moves can serve.
Like
I feel
Fury
like that would
swipes should be able to cut things too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like,
Yeah.
How about this? If you're a kid that can carry 150 of an animal in your pocket, bring a pocket knife. Save a little room for that. A little sword you can cut down some grass.
Free your HM slave.
Yeah. Maybe throw out a Charizard and get a lawnmower. Like one of those things.
awful.
You
Yeah.
can only carry 6 at a time in these games. They don't allow you to actually.
Don't bring
have
logic
someone.
into this, all right?
I have to put some of it into it because we have to take this a little seriously for people who do care. About it.
Fine.
they
I'm
not-
sorry. I'm sorry.
Just a little serious.
Does the world of Pokemon not have backpack? Like, where do you put these
You
Pokeballs?
do have a backpack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have bigger
It's
backpacks?
full of all it's zigzagoons and all that.
But the HM thing also factors into some of the water, apparently.
Yeah, because so the originals.
Which apparently there's a lot of.
Did we
My-
really?
I didn't say it. I just heard there was a lot of water in that game.
My friends will not stop
Texting?
telling me that.
Oh, telling you
I'll
that?
be like,
Okay.
it's raining, Callie. Ha 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 ha. And I'm like, yes. Anyway, so.
Ironically, we had a drought this year in California.
Yeah. there
Too much water
wasn't
would have been a good
Too
thing.
much water.
Well,
so
look what happened over the last week and a half.
I know.
I get to work on wet every day.
Thanks a lot.
it's my fault.
Thanks a lot, Zigzagoon.
Anyway, so in the originals, there were 8 HM, which is hidden machine for anyone who cares.
That's what that stands for?
We've been talking about this for 15 minutes and no one said that until now. Thank you.
Yeah, hidden machine. Yeah.
If this was up to Jose, it'd be the rest of my life not knowing what an HM was.
I was doing it on purpose.
Yeah, so they cut it down to 7, which isn't really that much of an improvement. They got rid of Flash, which is like the most useless HM because it doesn't do anything in battle. It's like now you're less accurate or
You
whatever.
would walk into caves in the original game and it was just pitch dark and you'd have to use
Flash.
to light up.
And so now there are dark caves, but you can see enough where you don't need Flash.
A
Kind
good
of-
hidden machine is a lighter.
That's another good yeah.
or a
Flashlight.
the Pokedex should have a flashlight app. Seriously.
Sure. I mean,
Like-
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Why didn't I even think of that?
Yeah. So the problem is there's 3 water type HMs, which means your water type Pokemon is going to be bogged down a lot. There's Surf, Waterfall, and Dive. Dive is exclusive to this region, and that also factors into the amount of water you have to navigate is just. It's a little much for me.
Some would say too much.
Yeah, some people would say too much.
Yeah, and when you are navigating water in these games, it is back to random battle. Which, unless you're spraying repel every few seconds, which will, sort of take that away for a, 100 or
100, 200, 300. There's 3 levels.
Yeah,
of it.
there's 3 levels of it.
Oh, so
Ultimately,
you
you're getting into
can't
battles all the time.
you can't do the thing like in the grass where you see what's coming in the water. It doesn't work.
Do anything on water,
it does
or
do stuff on
just some
water.
bubbles? I haven't gotten that far.
Oh, like a Pelipper will have like little wings flapping or whatever.
Okay.
See,
So-
every time I think I'm getting this a little bit, you
introduce
you
another
Pelippearl
term.
me right out.
The Pelipper
I'm
brought right out
sorry.
of the podcast room. Did you play? I'm gonna get this makes sense. Did you play Bravely Default? Remember that game?
I remember. I haven't played it yet.
Okay.
I want to.
So one of the amazing things that game had is a slider to where you can choose. It's normally at 100%, and that's like battles, like the random encounter rate.
Oh,
You
I
can
heard.
put it to 200%, where you will battle something every 5 steps. Like if you want to grind, this is the quickest way to grind.
Ooh, that's
Or
smart.
if you get to the end of a dungeon, you're about to die, and you want to leave in order to like restock in the village before you fight the boss, you can move it all the way down to literally 0. And you will never have a random encounter in that game.
That was the best
That's
thing ever.
awesome.
And I play that, and I'm like, every JRPG should have this. Every
If they do
single
random
one.
battle,
If they do
right.
random
Yeah,
battle,
if yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Pokemon should have that.
That would be wonderful.
No, that would be an interesting change for Pokemon,
Mm-hmm.
I must say, right? Yeah, like you just.
Also,
my mind
what would
just-
I want to know what that game would be like if you just set it to 0 right at the beginning, like the loneliest walk. It's like it turns into this pretentious indie game where you're just walking through the world.
Well, they warn you too. In Bravely Default, if you put it to 0, it says warning: you will
Like,
not
you're gonna get
encounter
crushed
anything
when you get to the
if
next-
you fight
yeah.
a boss and you have not leveled
Yeah.
up. You are getting you are destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
And you have to accept.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
so basically that ties into why sort of water and HMs became an issue. Were there any other issues with like the remake mentality? Because they did try to be different. Like they introduced Soar, which is not an HM. Or
It's not. It's
Okay.
it's exclusive to Latias, Latios, which are 2 legendary Pokemon.
Thank you for putting
There
that for Brian. I love that. He
I gotta work on explaining Pokemon to people. So but you get it at the end of the game. Like you have to. I think it's either right before or right after you beat the champion. Spoilers, but
Oh,
surprised.
damn it.
Champion
you
spoilers.
you can beat the champion. Oh my god, like.
That's always been the point. That's another thing with Pokemon games, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Anyway, so you get there. It's called an Eon flute, and you play you play the flute, and
Really?
yeah, you play a flute.
Okay, granted, you can't be incredulous to the Eon flute when every Zelda game you pull out a pan flute and a
That's
bird
true.
comes and
That's
flies
true.
your way.
Yeah,
true.
yeah. You can't
It's not-
beat.
they don't have the flying bird in every Zelda game. To be fair.
Anyway, you play the Eon flute. It comes, and then it's like real time flying through the region, which is cool, but really not fast if you're trying to get places.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that was like an endgame thing.
Yeah.
Because I saw the screens of everything. I was like, oh man, you get like an airship like in Final Fantasy VI. You could just like cruise around. I'm like, oh, that's an endgame.
Yeah, no, we talked about that. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when I had read her initial criticism, I asked, hey, does the new Soar ability help solve this at all? Had it been introduced earlier, maybe, but probably even not, because it's really just a point A to point B
Sure.
kind of thing, at least to make it so you don't have to, for lack of a better way to say it, traverse through a lot of water.
Do things attack you in the air?
Yeah, well, it's not random encounters. I don't think it's like you can fly up to it, and so there will be like not a school. That's for fish. A flock of like bird Pokemon, and you can fly up to it and have a battle in the sky with your non-flying Pokemon.
I like that you
Battling.
use the correct terminology for a group of a fake animal.
You corrected yourself. Like, oh, excuse me.
Excuse me, it's not a
It's-
school.
Yeah, it's actually a covey of zigzagoons.
A murder of
It's a
zigzagoons.
it's a zaggle.
Zigzagoons.
It's a zaggle of zigs.
Yeah. So my point in the review was the HMs feel really outdated because it's like, okay, I know that the point of cut is to keep me from going too far too early, but there are a lot of other ways other games do that, control where you go without forcing you to include
Yeah,
something.
Super
in-
Metroid never made you have to like leave things at home. Like, well, I have to leave my super missiles at home if I want to have
Yeah.
my Varia suit.
Yeah.
Imagine what that
Yeah.
would have been like. It would have been.
It would have been bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the word you're looking for.
No. I don't want to say bad. Wait, whoa. I don't want to say bad because I'm a big fan of like the original Resident Evil, and there are times in that game where when you're running around, you can't carry
Yeah.
that plate. That
There's
you
a
need to
Sure.
take a
There's
certain
an
part of the
art
house.
Yeah.
to
I think
resource
there-
management.
Yeah, there's an
Yeah.
art to it, and some games get it right. Clearly, Pokemon is still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So so that really bothered me. It was really frustrating. Like I'm trying to build a team, like, and then I have to include this Pokemon that I don't care about. That's like I can't play, like I can't put in battle because it's
Yeah.
useless. You know.
And for context for folks, like in X and Y, that you like you said, they cut down on a lot of the HMs.
there were 5.
Yeah, and also, I felt like pointing this out too. Just some of the more obnoxious HM activities were optional. Like I feel like there was, for example, I can't remember where, but somewhere in X and Y, there is sort of this place where you can use strength to like move these big pillars, and they have it all lined up so you could just get to one like hidden item. I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I ended up doing it like 50 hours later when I felt like it. I was like, all right, I'm going to go there and actually figure out what the heck this Stonehenge-looking thing was. But it wasn't a part of the game that I had to experience.
Sure.
Whereas in this game, there are certain parts where you do need that stuff in order to get to
Yeah,
places.
I think the only one I didn't need to get to the Elite Four was strength. Like, I didn't really need to use strength, which is you push things around. But you do need it in the Victory Road.
We don't know a lot about strength.
I know.
Honestly.
I was going to say thank you for explaining
Strength.
that to me.
You push big like blocks. It's like that's all it is. But when you go to Victory Road, which is the road before the champions or the Elite Four, whatever. Yeah. I should know that. When you go there, you have to use, I think, all of the HMs, including Flash, if you don't want to hurt your eyes. So it's like, I'm trying to train my Pokemon for the Elite Four, and I have to devote at least 7 moves to just navigating this place. And I found that really frustrating. I was like, this is pointless.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's no point to this. So,
Yeah. And I feel like as much as they're getting better at sort of the speed and the flow of certain parts of the game, where like with X and Y, and I feel even with this game, with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, that leveling is a lot faster. Really cool things like XP share help you sort of level a lot of Pokemon at once, so you're able to kind of get through portions of the game faster. They're getting good at things like that, but they aren't getting sort of around things that have been there for years and that they need to sort of fix. And you can't just hide behind it was a remake. That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
Like, what happens to hindsight?
Because-
you should be able to know and fix these things.
yeah, it was, because I wrote in the review, like, it was amazing for these reasons when it came out, but it's been 12 years or whatever, and there's a lot of things that just feel very dated and really need to be improved, and were not. And that's disappointing, but I still really enjoy the game. I mean, like, I'm 40 hours into my replay, so, like,
Yeah.
clearly I'm really enjoying it.
And I'm enjoying it a lot too. I'm at roughly a little over 20, and it's fun to me. I think because it's another region to explore, and I wasn't familiar with Ruby Sapphire. That's actually the one Pokemon I did not play.
Oh, wow.
I played every installment in the series for at least a few hours, but that was the one on GBA. I don't know what was going on at the time. I wasn't into it. And so it is sort of a new world for me. And then the whole inclusion of Pokebag is kind of cool because at least then I'm leveling Pokemon that I already got a start on in the last game. So that to me feels really cool.
Yeah.
And I hope that they find ways in the future to keep building on that cool factor because I'm paying for it and it's got to be a reason to want to do it, right? It can't just be I don't want to let go of digital creatures that aren't real.
That's like
what it
Animal
is,
Crossing. Oh, my
right?
God.
Yeah. But that said, how is the story on this one? Like
The story?
Yeah, when you look at the story of Ruby and Sapphire compared to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, I mean, do you feel engaged by it at all? I feel like one of my biggest problems with X and Y is the story was whatever.
I did not care about X and Y's story.
Yeah.
I don't know if it could be a little bit of a nostalgia factor for me with
Okay.
the story, but it's a really complex, deep game. Like there's a lot going on in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and the villainous team isn't like terrible. They're not terrible people. They're just kind of misguided, which is an interesting thing that like Team Rocket was just like, we're gonna steal your Pokemon and like cut off Slowpoke tails and feed them to you. Like that was a legit thing that happened.
Whoa.
Yeah.
A Slowpoke is a type of Pokemon
Got
Yeah.
that.
Yes. Figured
with
that.
edible tails.
But apparently,
Might even apply to humans.
I think in Gen 2 they tried to sell them as food. I don't really. I think that's what it was. So
That's deranged. That's really messed up.
Team Rocket's really messed up, and then Team.
What's wrong with those people, by the way? While you're
Team
here,
Rocket?
Yeah.
What's wrong with them?
Yeah.
The fact that they want to cut
No,
off.
I mean, like, yeah, why do they...
Like,
why do
did they ever
what's their
explore the
motivation?
backstory here? What's wrong with these people?
I'm not really clear
don't
what's
think-
wrong with them.
They're
I
like
think
the Joker in The Dark Knight.
yeah, they're just
think
like
so.
they
Agents
want to
of
watch
Chaos.
the Poke World burn.
Yeah, it's like Joker and Harley Quinn basically
Yeah.
walking around,
Yeah,
torturing
they're going
animals.
around. They're like, we're gonna steal your Pikachu and feed Slowpoke tails to you. It's really messed up. So like Team Magma and Team Aqua are just like, we want to make the world better for Pokemon.
Yeah.
And so
Oh, they're environmentalists?
they're pretty mean.
The worst kind.
It's the worst. They
They're
all
the
smell like patchouli.
They're okay. Well, Team Aqua is like pirate environmentalists.
Oh.
They're like it's pretty weird. They want to increase the amount of water amazingly, which doesn't. I'm Team Magma all the way because they're like we need more land, and I'm like yeah, you do need more land. But yeah, so they're like we need to increase water for Pokemon so they can live in the water.
Sure.
And
Hippies.
yeah, they're like yeah. So they're not completely terrible people, which I find is a very interesting dynamic, like a more believable thing than like we're gonna feed you slowpoke tails.
Are there a lot of drum circle minigames?
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I feel like I hope in the future, and after X and Y, I really liked X and Y. I feel like as a game, with a lot of the improvements that they put into it, including like even things like super training, which I was like, okay, I like this. It's a bit repetitive, but I like what this is doing for the game overall. I just want to see them elevate the story. Because RPGs are about story. Like, that is the thing that kind of keeps you going, isn't it? Like,
Pokemon has never been about story, though.
It hasn't. And
it's
about
like friendship and love, but that's it.
Yeah, but it feels like a wasted opportunity. There could be something there. I tell Marty all the time my weird, crazy ideas. And one of them was I would love if Shigesato Itoi, the guy who wrote the Mother games, wrote a Pokemon game. I almost feel like that would be one of the most memorable things I would ever experience, because when I look at Earthbound, that game has like genuine feelings and emotion and reverence, and it treats you like it's stuff that I don't know. I guess it scales to some degree for kids, but it's also something that an adult will get teary-eyed.
Oh yeah, no, I mean like stuff in Earthbound, like I loved it as a kid, but replaying it now, like stuff went way over my head as a kid, and I'm like, oh man, this game has some wild themes, and like this game is about like psychosis and lost and drug abuse, and like there's some crazy stuff going on in that game that you just don't notice as a kid.
I just wish that Pokemon was capable of that, and so far I guess it's not, and it's still a great game or a good game, and 7.8 is not a poor score. I want to give you props for that, by the way.
Thank you.
A really good job. But, and I hope the mentality around that too. Guys, 7.8, good thing. It's a good game. Take that as it is.